Good evening, everybody. My name is Audrey Cooper, and I am an alcoholic. I did not believe that for a long time. I didn't want to be an alcoholic, but then again, who does? And when I was new, I heard people share, I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm grateful to be an alcoholic. And I thought, what are they talking about? I cried. I was sitting there crying all the time for about 2 years, the first 2 years. And I thought, how can they say they're grateful? But today I understand that. And I am grateful to be an alcoholic because it's allowed me to be a member of this beautiful fellowship. It's allowed me to have the life I never would have had. I even told my sister, and this is not the right thing, but she's not an alcoholic, but several years ago I said, hey, I really wish you were an alcoholic. She said, what? After what you went through? And I said, well, then you could go to AA and have this beautiful life. But I'm grateful to be here with you all. My sobriety date is October 13th, 2013, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm a member of the Came to Believe group in Rocky Mount. We meet every Tuesday and Friday nights from 7 to 8 at St. Paul Methodist Church. That's on the corner of Bethlehem Road and Westmount Drive. It's a great group, like this group. I love this group. You all are my family. And we meet every, like I said, Tuesday, Friday nights from 7 to 8. Tuesday nights, the first 3 Tuesday nights, they're all closed meetings except the last Friday night of the month. The first 3 Tuesdays, we read from the Big Book. The 4th Tuesday, we study the tradition corresponding with that month. And like your group, if there's a 5th Tuesday night, we study AA history. Friday nights, they're all closed meetings except, like I said, the last Friday night. The chairperson picks a topic from conference-approved literature, and we discuss that. The last Friday night is like your group. We have a speaker meeting so we can bring our friends and family. And we have fellowship beginning at 6 o'clock, and then the speaker takes the podium at 7. So please join us. A lot of you all do. But the Big Book teaches us when I speak, I'm supposed to share in a general way what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. So I'm going to try to do that to the best. Well, I prayed and asked God to give me the words, use me as His channel and instrument tonight. Let me know, tell me what to share with you all, that it's not me, not my ego. And if I can help at least one person, I'll be really grateful for that. I know it'll keep me sober another day and night. I grew up in Rocky Mount. I had very loving parents. I can't blame my alcoholism on my parents. They were kind, compassionate. They taught my brother and sister and me to be ethical, honest, hardworking, responsible. They taught us about a loving God, and I'm very grateful for that. I didn't come here believing in a God who is punishing and cruel. I learned about a loving God. I just know today, before AA, I didn't rely on God. I was telling God all the time what to do. Hey, Lord, you know I want that job. Please give it to me. It was always telling Him, instead of praying for His will to be done and for Him to guide me. And I learned in here how to rely on God and just give things up to Him and turn it over. But nobody in my family is alcoholic except me, except my dad's father. My grandfather, he was an alcoholic. Sadly, I don't think Granddaddy ever found AA. I never saw him drink, but then again, I wasn't around him a lot. because my grandfather was very violent when he drank and couldn't hold down a job, so it was a very difficult childhood for my dad and my aunt and my grandmother. But they did divorce, my grandparents, when Dad was 12, but a lot of those scars were there. Dad and Mom, I'm so glad once I came to AA, an AA member invited my parents to go to Al-Anon, the 12-step program for friends and families of alcoholics. And they were members of Al-Anon for 9 years, and they loved coming to this meeting. And you all were so kind to them. But so like I said, I grew up in a loving family, but I know today, I think I was an early teenager when I started suffering from depression, anxiety. I became very shy, and I just thought that was normal, that that's how everybody feels. And I didn't tell my parents or my teachers or friends. I had good friends, good teachers. I didn't tell them how I felt, because I thought if I tell people what I'm really thinking, how I feel, they're going to reject me and think, why? I can't believe she's thinking like that. I don't mean murderous things, but, it was crazy. And I just thought about today, I took an overdose of aspirin one night when I was maybe 16, and then my heart was racing. I couldn't go to sleep. I prayed, dear God, help me live. But I didn't tell Mom or Dad. I didn't tell my teachers. And that's just not normal. But what it is, I learned in AA, it was not what was on the outside. It was what was on my insides was sick. And as I got into my alcoholism, I did blame my parents, my boyfriend, my friends, my employer for my problems. It was all them. If they would just do what I told them to do, I'd be all right. If they would just give me more emotional support, I'll be all right. I didn't know until I came here how to look at myself, how to look at my part in things, and that's so key. But I didn't really start drinking until I was in college, around 20. And my junior year, I had a single room in a dorm, and I could not sleep. So there were all those isms, the depression, anxiety, the racing of my mind when I tried to sleep. It was all these what ifs. What if I flunk out? What if this? What if that? What if this happens? And most of those things never happened. But I just worried. And I thought, if I get a little bottle of wine at the grocery store, put it in my little dorm refrigerator, I can drink a little wine at night and I'll go to sleep. So that's how it started. And I did think about the fact Granddaddy said he started drinking for that same reason. He couldn't, insomnia. But I remember thinking, I'm not going to become an alcoholic like Granddaddy. No way. But then I did. But I look back and I see these red flags. Like in college, I was going to take a big exam my senior year to go to grad school. And I could not sleep. Of course, there's that racing of the mind. I got to get some sleep. I thought, there's my wine. So I started drinking that wine, and I was so hungover, I should never have gone to take that exam. It was a voluntary thing. I could have backed out, but I took it, and I did not do well at all. And so those are little red flags, but I didn't think about it at the time. And I got a job. I was in Raleigh working. I was alone, and that's when my drinking really picked up. But I drank alone. I led a double life for many years. My family didn't know I was alcoholic. My friends didn't know. My friends were not heavy drinkers or alcoholics. And I was able to play that double role for a long time until the last 2 years of my drinking, and people knew something was really wrong with Audrey. But I just hit it. And I drank because I was depressed. That depression turned into suicidal depression. I attempted suicide a number of times in Raleigh, ended up in a psychiatric hospital there twice. Here's my drug screen, all red, red, red. Have you been drinking? Oh, no. How dare you ask that? And I said, that's not my drug screen. That's somebody, they messed up. But I wouldn't tell the doctors, I think I've got a problem with alcohol. But I remember the doctor saying, okay, denies she has a drinking problem. It just, they couldn't help me. And I went to a lot of psychiatrists in Raleigh the last 4 years of my drinking, seeking help. I wanted that emotional, mental pain I was in to stop. But I didn't tell them the truth about, I think I've got a drinking problem, so they couldn't help me. And I remember they kept thinking, we tried different medicines, sent Audrey to a holistic doctor. Nothing was working. I was getting worse. I remember the doctors thinking, what's going on? I don't know how to treat her. But things just got worse. And I'm a perfectionist from childhood. So I had to study really hard. I wanted to make the best grades. I wanted to get a good job, do really well in my job. And nothing, I thought if I learned in AA, the reason I was doing that, trying to be the perfect daughter, employee, friend, whatever, was because I wanted to keep everything on the outside just right, just straight. And then I thought that would make me feel better. Well, it didn't. I felt worse. And then I'd drink over that. I'm so stressed out, I've got to go drink. But that was all because my insides were sick. It wasn't what was on the outside. And so things just progressively got worse and worse. I was hitting all of these different bottoms. And I didn't stop digging. And it was like I lost my job. The perfectionist, I lost my job. And I never dreamed that would ever happen. And my supervisor, Leslie, said, we think you've got a substance abuse problem. I said, no, I don't, thank you very much. I'm just suicidal. I mean, what normal person says stuff like that? But she was right. I knew I couldn't do my job, and I did not know where to go. And then I totaled 2 cars within 2 months of each other, and that was about 6 months before I went to treatment in AA. And the first time I'd gone from Rocky Mount to Raleigh to Rocky Mount to visit my family where I'm from. They were still in Rocky Mount. And I was driving my car in a nice neighborhood, going to see my sister, and I lost control and crashed head-on into this telephone pole. And I thought, oh my gosh, the car is on fire. And so I ran up to these poor little people. I didn't call my sister. She was nearby. I ran up to this house. I didn't know those people. I said, my car's on fire. I've had a wreck. It was the powder from the airbag. That's what it was. But that's the kind of thing, that's how doped up I was. And I remember telling them, you've got to call 911. My neck hurts, my back hurts. And that was all of that. I did have depression, but a lot of that was that self-pity and that playing the victim. And, if I have a hurt neck or back, people think, oh, poor Audrey, she was in this accident. She had to go to the ER. And I wanted people to take care of me because I couldn't take care of myself. But it was right before I went to treatment. I got a letter from the city of Rocky Mount. I didn't open it because that was the other problem. I never could follow through with things. But I remember thinking, I think that letter might be really important. So let me take it with me to Rocky Mount. I went to treatment at Coastal Plain Hospital. And I thought I better, so I opened that letter. I thought, oh my gosh, I owe what? $5,000 to the city for that telephone pole. And I remember thinking, why are they billing me for this telephone pole? That should just be a privilege of driving. You can just crash into things, and you don't have to pay for it. The city does. But my sponsor said, no, that's on your financial amends, because would you have crashed into that pole except for the fact you were drinking? I said, no. So she said, go to the city of Rocky Mount. You set up a payment plan. And I'd gotten a little job. I was just doing rote things. I loved it. Shredding documents, filing. I was so grateful to have that job. So grateful. But I wasn't making much. So I said, I'm not going to be able to pay much. And my sponsor said, go on down there. Even if it's $5 a month, you pay it every month on time. So I did set up my plan. But I was so devastated because every month they get another statement, and the interest was so much that the interest was more than what I was paying. So she kept saying, keep paying it. And about 2 years later, I got some money, and honestly, and I went down to the city, and I said, I'm going to pay my big bill. I'm so excited. And she said, we've never had anybody like you coming down here so happy to pay a big bill. She just didn't understand that was part of my financial amends. And before I paid it, I would drive past that telephone pole, and I'd have to look away, and I'd cringe, because that reminded me of the devastation of my alcoholism, the harms I caused. But after I paid for that, I can now, and I have to go by it a lot to see my sister, I can drive by and hold my head up high, and I can look at that telephone pole. I really ought to put a little plaque on it. Audrey's telephone pole. But that's the beauty of our program in making those amends. But let me back up. I started doing really crazy things, other crazy things in Raleigh. And I was dating this really nice man. And one night we went out to dinner, and he said, I can't date you anymore. You've got too many problems. And I thought, I do, but why? And I kept thinking, it was still denial that it was alcoholism. I thought, I'm just mentally ill. And maybe I really thought I was going insane, and I was trying to figure out what. I'd look out the window in the mornings and think, I used to be able to do that. Drive to work, go to work, do a good job, and I can't. But I said, you know what, George, what will help and solve my problems? This was the wrong answer. If you would just give me more emotional support, I would be okay. And that was the wrong answer. He said, Audrey, I have given and given and given, and you've taken and taken and taken, and I can't give anymore. Well, of course, being the alcoholic I am, I was so mad at him. But later I thought, he's right. I've got to get help on my own. I just don't know where to go. But then I decided, I think he really doesn't want to date me because he's got another girlfriend. And he would still call to check on me to make sure I was still alive. And he was worried. And he said, I'm going out of town this weekend. And I thought, oh, great. I thought, I'm going to go over there one night. I'm going to try to break into his condo. And it won't be a felony, because I'm not planning to, I don't have the intent to commit a felony within the dwelling. I'm not going to go steal things. I just want to find evidence of a girlfriend. It is a felony, breaking and entering, and alone, or attempted breaking and entering. But I thought, I really have to look nice. So I wore a dress, high heels. I've never broken into any, my family, they taught us to be honest and kind and good. I thought, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to try. And so I was trying to break the lock on the front door, and I'm looking around. People are driving by in the parking lot. Oh, hey, how you doing? And then I'd go around to the back and work on that lot. But back there I had to climb over this deck in my high heels and my dress. It was on the ground floor, but I had to climb over there. But I worked on that. Well, I couldn't get in. So I went on home. A few days later, I get a call from Audrey. I got back from my trip one night, and somebody had tried to break into my condo, and they damaged the lock, so I could not get in. I had to call a locksmith, and it was reported that someone bearing your description was there, hanging around the condo. I said, "Oh my God, George, that's horrible. I didn't do that." Well, he knew I did it. And he knew it because he's an FBI agent. So that's where my alcoholism took me, is to doing things like that. I could be sitting in federal prison right now having tried to break into an FBI agent's home, but he was very kind. He knew I was sick. And once I got into AA, I made my financial and verbal amends to him. So I'm really grateful for that. Bless his heart. But it was just things like that happening and digging those bottoms. And then I started doing things like, I really want to get help. I really want this sickness and emotional pain in my head to be removed. And I asked my psychiatrist, I said, could you just order electric shock treatment? Because that way my brain can be zapped and maybe all that will be removed. And she said, you're just being numbed out. I said, yeah, I want to be like that. But I said, when I was in the psych hospital, people were getting electric shock treatment, and I think I'd like to do that. And she wouldn't do it. Well, that's not normal to ask for that. And I know today, I know through AA, you don't zap your brain. It's just not going to be zapped. And then suddenly I'm in recovery. But I thought I was getting buying all these self-help tapes and books, and a lot of things came together for people helping me, whether they were alcoholic in AA or not. I went to my church and I signed up for, it's called a Stephen Minister. Women, like sponsorship, women work with women, men with men. Members of the church are trained to help another person who's in a crisis. So I signed up for a Stephen Minister. The lady who was my Stephen Minister, Dot, I told her everything. I finally got honest with somebody. And she said, Audrey, my son is an alcoholic addict. He's in AA. I'm a member of Al-Anon. So see how God was working in my life to put these people in my path to help me, like Dot. It's just not even a coincidence. It was God. But I started going to a substance abuse clinic in Raleigh, and it was there that I really learned about AA. One of the counselors, Bernie, shared with me what he was like, what happened, and I could see what he was like in that treatment center or substance abuse clinic. He was kind, he was funny, he was happy. He helped me and all those patients so much. And he said, I'm a member of AA. I used to be a drug dealer. I'm an alcoholic addict. He said, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I went to treatment. He had all of our literature. He would read from the big book to me. I think he was reading How It Works some of the time, and I'd cry because it touched my spirit. And he told me about the 12 steps. He said, I don't care what 12-step program you go to. You just need the 12 steps. And he encouraged me to go. But I wouldn't go. For whatever reason, I wouldn't go. I kept thinking, well, they may not like me, or what's it going to be like? And I said, Bernie, I can just come here and get my therapy, and I'll recover. Well, I didn't, because as long as I had that substance in my body, alcohol, and I wasn't doing what they taught me to do at that clinic, I got worse. But I went on for 15 months like that. But Bernie had planted that seed and carried that message of hope to me. And when things got so bad, I saw the psychiatrist there, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm going to die. I'm going to become homeless. I'm unemployable. I'm isolating. I told him about this dream I had. And I was not dreaming back then because due to my alcoholism, I wasn't going into deep sleep. But one night I had this dream, and I will never forget it. This epitomizes where my alcoholism took me. In my dream, everybody in the world was gone except me. There were no people, no animals. Everybody was in heaven. But the earth looked like an atomic bomb had hit it. It was all black and white and gray, and there were no trees. There was no flowers, no green, no colors. And I prayed and said, God, why did you leave me? Please help me. And so I went to the clinic, told the doctor that. He said, I said, what do I do? And even though I knew about AA from Bernie, but the doctor said, I think you need inpatient psychiatric care for 9 months. I thought, I knew I was bad off, but 9 months? But that scared me. He said, I've got to find a hospital that will take you for that long. I share that with y'all because I did not have to go to a psychiatric hospital for 9 months because of AA. But that's how sick I got through my alcoholism. And while he's trying to find a hospital, I finally listened to Bernie. I thought, I better go to an AA meeting. I'm so scared. And I went. It took several nights. I got the meeting scheduled, and there you go. There was an AA meeting in my church that met in my church. I thought, I can't believe it. I was in the sanctuary all those Sundays on my knees, praying and crying and asking God to help me. And right down the hall is the AA meeting that had been meeting for 50 years. I didn't know where they were exactly, so I was trying to find them. And I heard laughter, and the people sounded happy. And I thought, that's got to be the AA meeting. That sounds like Bernie. I walked in the door. I loved AA from the very beginning. I cried, and the people came up and greeted me. They hugged me. They said, we've been waiting for you. You never have to feel this way again. You never have to be alone again. We're here. And I shared with them that I'd ruined my life. And they went, that first meeting, they went around the room. They shared what they were like, what happened, and then they shared about their lives. It gave me hope because I couldn't believe where the people had been taken by alcoholism, and here they were. And they were sharing little things every meeting. They'd say, I'm going to share, after meetings, a little bit with you at a time because it can be overwhelming. And I'd say, you are the wisest people I've ever met in my life. And they'd say, no, honey, this is what has been taught. Somebody else taught me this. I didn't come up with this. But then a little lady from Brooklyn, New York came up. She said, do you want me to be your temporary sponsor? I had no idea what that was, but I had the gift of desperation, so I said yes. She took me to the best meetings in Raleigh, and they said, do you want to join our home group? Yes. I didn't know what that was, but whatever they suggested, I did it. But I had to go to treatment, inpatient treatment, so I went to Rocky Mount. I never went back to Raleigh because Raleigh at that time, to me, was the scene of the crime. Even I had to get my family or friends to drive me to Raleigh to my condo to get things because I would just start cringing. It was like PTSD. It wasn't Raleigh, but it's just what happened to me there. But I don't feel that way about Raleigh now because of my recovery. I can go there. I think of the happy things. But I went to Coastal, and they said, go to a meeting as soon as you get out, get a sponsor. And I did all of that. And I loved AA, and I joined a home group. I got a great sponsor. My recovery has been slow, but that's okay. At one point when I had 1.5 years, I thought, this is just not going fast enough. I need to be further ahead. And one friend noticed I was like that. She said, Audrey, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Enjoy it. I thought, she's right. And it seems like every time I got so sad, and like I said, I cried all the time, but I had to get all that stuff out. I'd stuffed down anger and resentment and the lack of self-esteem, isolation, all inside. So it was just spewing out. But I had a good sponsor. She had a good sponsor to help me take me through the steps to get all that junk out and then to put in the good things. But it's just like, because I was not drinking and I was in AA, I began to notice the beauty of the world. No longer were things black and white and gray. I was noticing the colors, the flowers, the birds, the blue sky, and I thought, it's just magnificent. And I didn't notice any of that because back in Raleigh, I was also having panic attacks. See, the anxiety turned to panic attacks because of alcohol, and I just wasn't paying attention. I always felt like the big book talks about that impending doom. Something horrible is going to happen if I go out. But in AA, I was noticing beautiful things. And it seems like I remember leaving a meeting one night and feeling particularly sad and crying, and I saw a shooting star. I thought, okay, God's telling me that I'm going to be okay. And then another night I went home, I'm crying again. My little cat, Blanche, I was sitting on the back steps and looking up at the stars, and my little cat, Blanche, came over. I was crying, and she jumped him. And I did talk to my sponsor about all this. It's not like I wasn't talking to her or others about my feelings. But my little cat jumped in my lap, and I thought, I'm going to be okay. And that's the way it's been. And I started making, like I said, those financial amends. And Phoebe. But it's just been a great life. And I'm able to work now. I haven't totaled any cars. I mean, I could be in a car accident, but it wouldn't be because I was drinking. And I've been able to volunteer in the ER at Nash General. For me, that's a miracle because I was the one always going to the ER at Duke, Wake Med, Nash General, everywhere in a crisis. And the fact that I was stable enough through AA to help another person is a miracle. And I had total direct patient-family contact in that job in the ER. And I was able, because of my being an alcoholic and in recovery, I would hear people talking, patients, and I think they've got a drinking problem or mental health problem. That's why they're here. And one little man was crying, and two nurses were trying to console him. And I was thinking, I think he's here because of alcohol and mental health. And then he just got worse. The more the nurses talked to him and they walked away, and I shared with him, I don't go around telling people I'm in AA unless I know that or feel like that it'll help them. So I told him I'm in AA, and I started sharing a little of my story. He said, I've got a drinking problem too. And I told him where to go to get help, and he calmed right down. I don't know if he ever went to AA. I never saw him again, but hopefully he did. or at least like Bernie, I planted that little seed. And in my job today, I love my job, and that's AA also. I'm able to help people. A lot of my clients have substance abuse, mental health issues, and one client, I told her I was in recovery, and call me if you need to talk. I said, go to meetings, get a sponsor. I didn't tell her much about my story, but I told her about where to go, and unfortunately, she had a spectacular relapse. And then she was texting me, I know you're a drug dealer. I'm going to tell the judges and everybody and Rocky Mount. So I talked to Phoebe about it. She said, I don't think you should be telling clients that, so I don't. Unless they ask. If they ask, I'll be truthful. But I am able to tell these clients and their families where to go to get help. My dad got really, really sick. He had to have quadruple bypass surgery when I had about 3 years. And mom had a brain injury in 1996. And Dad took the best care of her, but she was very disabled. So I was living at my parents' home to help Dad with Mom, and then he had to go to Wake Med. He had 4 heart surgeries, and I took a leave. I had 2 part-time jobs. I took a leave of absence from one of them. I had a lady come in the mornings to take care of Mom so I could work. Come home, take care of Mom, go drive Mom. We'd go to Wake Med to see Dad. And my poor little mother, it was so hard, to get her through that big hospital, and she was confused. And when Dad had his 3rd surgery, I was in the waiting room at Wake Med, and I thought, I can't take this. I'm so worried and anxious. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack. And there was nowhere to lie down, so I just lay on the floor. And the people just stepped over me. This is Wake Med. They didn't say, are you all right? But that was okay. But I prayed about it. Dear God, please help me. And that would have been the type of thing I would have taken a drink over, or more than one drink. But I didn't. And then my dad did really well. I called my sponsor that night. I told her what happened. She said, Audrey, you're making your living amends to your parents. And I harmed my parents so much. My poor dad, when I was in AA, told me I never knew when I might get a call that you had committed suicide, you'd been in a horrible car accident, you killed somebody in a car accident, I never knew, or you were murdered. So I really harmed him and Mom. I thought, she's right. And that made it better, that I could handle that stress, take care of Mom and Dad without picking up that drink. And every time I've gone through difficult situations, fearful situations, without picking up a drink, I'm stronger. And then I've got that experience that I can make it through it. And my dad gave me the best gift of sobriety. He said when he got better, he said, Audrey, Mom and I are so grateful to you because you've taken care of us. I'm so happy you're in AA. I don't know what we would have done if you were out there creating all that drama and chaos and not able to help. And so it's just been all these gifts of sobriety for me. And my parents passed away. My dad got really sick. I was able to take care of him, and that was hard. But I just had AA that I could talk. People here from the beginning said, here's my phone number. Call me anytime. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 in the morning. Call me. And they were honest. I mean, they were truthful. They weren't just y'all weren't just saying that. I've never met people like I have in AA. Never. The honesty, the compassion. I can share with you all those thoughts, and you listen and you understand and you don't judge me and you don't reject me. And I don't know what I would do without you. I know I would be dead without AA. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. But my parents died, and, I've had a hard time. We all do. Life shows up. Life can be hard, but I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug. And I've got a family member who's not, she'll be fine, but I'm having to take her to a lot of doctor's appointments out of town, and I'm able to help her. And we've become closer through that. I would not have been able to help her if I were not in my recovery. And let me back up. I'm kind of backing up, skipping around, but I do want to share this one story because I learned from it. I relapsed, which I don't recommend because it did not help me, but I've learned, I was told, learn from it. Learn what you didn't do right so you don't relapse again. And I learned from it because I know today what happened. I wasn't calling my sponsor like I was supposed to. When I did call her, I wasn't telling her the truth of what I was thinking and feeling. I was stuffing those feelings down, and I went to a speaker meeting, didn't tell anybody I want to drink. The obsession is back, even though it had been lifted. And I thought, and then there was that lie, I'm not an alcoholic. And I've told you my story, and that lie, my alcoholism is lying to me, you're not an alcoholic. You can drink again. So I thought, great. I'm going to go buy a bottle of wine, but where should I go? I can't go to the grocery stores because I might run into those AA people. So I think I'll go to Almonds Drug Store where back then they sold wine. I scurried in there. I grabbed a bottle, ran up to the counter. This young lady didn't know me from the man in the moon. She didn't know I was in AA. And I said, it's a gift. It's a gift. Police wrap it. And she wrapped it. It was beautiful. All those bows. And I took it home. I should have signed the card to Audrey. Love Audrey. But I drank that bottle that night alone. And that's when I hit this emotional, mental bottom. And I thought, the people in AA are right. Or I am an alcoholic. And I was so scared. I thought that I will never get sober. I will die drunk. And I kept that secret inside for 2 months. I didn't tell my sponsor or any of my friends. I kept going to meetings. Oh, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine with Audrey. And it was eating me up, that secret. And I called a friend down the street who was in AA. And I said, hey, can I come visit sometime? She said, yeah, come now. I thought, oh, God. I didn't know she'd say now. But I went down, I told her everything, and I asked her to be my sponsor. I had a great sponsor, but she was in another city, and I needed somebody like down the street. And so that I share that. I haven't picked up a drink since then, but I share that because I was told don't feel guilty about a relapse that could lead to a relapse. And so I've learned from that how to stay sober. And I'm so grateful to be with you all. You're my family. If you're new in recovery, early in recovery, struggling, please do not give up. They always told me, don't give up before the miracle happens, and it will happen. And give yourself a chance. You're special. Our lives are valuable. We all love each other. And thank you, Mike, for asking me to speak.